Cold rain drips through the forest canopy as a small family kneels beside a patch of unfamiliar plants. A woman brushes damp soil from a thick root, while a child reaches toward bright red berries hanging just above eye level. Before tiny fingers can touch them, an older hunter gently pulls the child's hand away and shakes his head. Empty stomachs tighten after days without a successful hunt, and every face reveals the same silent question: which food will keep them alive, and which will leave them too weak to see another sunrise? Long before predators became the greatest danger, hunger forced people to gamble against threats they could not see. Researchers believe countless decisions about food were made with little certainty, where one careless bite could affect an entire family rather than a single individual. But here's the unsettling part. The deadliest enemy often waited quietly on a branch, looking exactly like dinner. Morning mist rises between towering trees as people spread out across the woodland, lifting leaves, breaking branches, and digging carefully with sharpened sticks. Birds sing overhead, insects buzz across damp moss, and clusters of colorful fruit glow in scattered sunlight. Everything appears calm, yet every step hides uncertainty. One woman pauses after noticing bite marks on a fallen fruit. Another gathers mushrooms but hesitates before placing them into her woven basket. Nearby, a young boy watches every movement, learning without a single spoken lesson. Nature offered abundance, but it rarely offered instructions. Scientists suggest many plants evolved chemical defenses specifically because they could not run away from hungry animals. Some produced bitterness, others invisible toxins, and a few appeared perfectly harmless despite carrying dangerous compounds. Scientists didn't expect one simple truth to feel so brutal. The safest-looking forest could become the most dangerous dining table on Earth. The wind grows colder as another unsuccessful hunt comes to an end. Hunters lower their spears, shoulders sagging with exhaustion, while children wait beside a fading fire, rubbing empty stomachs beneath stitched animal hides. An elderly woman quietly divides the last handful of dried nuts so everyone receives something, even though no one receives enough. Before sunset, a younger gatherer points toward unfamiliar shrubs covered with heavy fruit. The group stops. They stare. No one moves first. Extreme hunger changes how risks are measured. Researchers believe ancient people often faced moments when eating an unknown plant seemed less dangerous than eating nothing at all. A poor decision could cause illness, weakness, or death, yet refusing every unfamiliar food might lead to the same outcome through starvation. And then something unusual happened. Survival increasingly depended not on courage, but on choosing exactly when not to be brave. A tired traveler bites into a small leaf and immediately spits it onto the ground. His face tightens, his tongue recoils, and he rinses his mouth with water from a nearby stream. Around him, others wrinkle their noses as the sharp smell of rotting meat drifts through warm afternoon air. No one argues. They simply walk away, leaving the carcass for scavengers circling above. Nearby, children copy the adults without fully understanding why. Long before people understood chemistry, their bodies were already responding to potential danger. Scientists believe bitter flavors, foul odors, and feelings of disgust evolved as protective systems that reduced the chance of swallowing harmful substances. These instincts were valuable, but they were never perfect. Many poisonous foods tasted ordinary, while some safe foods carried unpleasant flavors. This changes everything. Instinct could begin the conversation with nature, but it could never finish it. The morning fog begins to lift as several hunters crouch behind fallen logs, their eyes following a flock of birds pecking at dark berries. Nearby, a family of deer strips leaves from low branches while curious children whisper and point from behind their parents. One gatherer marks the location with a broken twig instead of picking the fruit immediately. The group watches for hours, waiting to see whether the animals stumble, grow weak, or simply wander away unharmed. Every patient observation delays a meal, but may prevent a tragedy. Researchers suggest early humans often learned by observing other species, using animal behavior as a valuable clue rather than a guarantee. Birds, deer, and primates could reveal promising food sources, yet different bodies process different chemicals. What nourished one creature might still poison another. Wait, what happened next? Careful observation became a guide, but blind imitation could still end in disaster. Clouds gather overhead as a woman kneels beside an unfamiliar plant, scraping away the soil with a stone blade. Instead of eating it, she rubs a tiny piece against her wrist and waits. Hours later, she touches a fragment to her lips before tasting only the smallest bite. The rest of the group continues gathering firewood, carrying water, and watching her closely. Every passing moment stretches with uncertainty. If sickness comes, everyone will remember. If nothing happens, tomorrow may bring another cautious step. Scientists believe ancient communities likely reduced danger by introducing unfamiliar foods gradually instead of consuming large amounts at once. Small tests could not eliminate every threat, especially from slow-acting toxins, but they may have lowered the chance of a single mistake becoming fatal for the entire group. But reality was far stranger. Survival often depended on patience, not speed, even when hunger demanded the opposite. Night settles over the camp as orange flames crackle between rings of stone. Hunters place tough roots beside glowing embers while another person turns strips of meat with a sharpened stick. Steam rises into the cold air. Children lean closer to the warmth, and elders break apart softened food with tired hands before sharing it around the circle. Outside the firelight, darkness hides unseen predators. But inside the camp, another battle is unfolding, one against food that was once too dangerous or too difficult to eat. Researchers believe controlled fire dramatically expanded the range of edible resources. Cooking likely softened hard plants, destroyed some harmful compounds, reduced certain parasites, and released more usable calories from many foods. Not every poison disappeared in the flames, but fire transformed survival possibilities in ways few other discoveries could match. But something changed. The campfire was becoming more than protection from the cold. It was becoming a tool that reshaped the human diet. A group gathers beside a flowing stream, peeling bitter tubers, crushing hard seeds with heavy stones, and soaking the pieces in woven baskets beneath the moving water. Others stir smoking pits, squeeze wet fibers between their hands, and patiently wait through another sunrise before anyone dares to eat. Children carry fresh water back and forth, while elders inspect each step without rushing. Skipping a single stage could leave the meal dangerous despite all the effort already spent. Scientists believe many ancient communities discovered that certain toxic plants could become reliable food only after careful processing. Techniques such as soaking, grinding, fermenting, drying, or prolonged cooking were refined over countless generations through observation and repeated experience rather than an understanding of chemistry. Scientists didn't expect this. In many cases, the true food was not the plant itself, but the knowledge required to transform it safely. Morning light reaches the edge of the camp as an elderly woman kneels beside a circle of children, placing leaves, berries, roots, and mushrooms on a flat stone one by one. Small hands reach forward, then quickly pull back whenever she quietly shakes her head. Nearby, adults repair spears, scrape animal hides, and prepare another journey, but their attention drifts toward the lesson. No words are wasted. Every gesture carries the weight of survival. Researchers believe experienced elders preserved an enormous store of practical knowledge gathered across decades of observation. They likely remembered which plants appeared after heavy rains, which roots became edible only in certain seasons, and which berries resembled safe ones but brought illness instead. Losing such a person may have meant losing information that could not be replaced within a single lifetime. And then something unusual happened. The most valuable resource in camp was no longer food itself, but the people who remembered where safe food could be found. The afternoon sun filters through scattered branches as children follow adults across open woodland, carrying tiny baskets almost too large for their shoulders. They imitate every movement, digging shallow roots, smelling crushed leaves, sorting edible seeds from worthless ones, and placing suspicious plants into a separate pile without being told twice. When one child reaches toward an unfamiliar flower, an older sister gently redirects the small hand before continuing the search. The lesson lasts all day because tomorrow may depend on remembering it. Scientists believe food knowledge spread mainly through observation, repetition, and participation rather than formal teaching. Long before writing existed, children absorbed survival skills by walking beside experienced gatherers, repeating familiar routines until dangerous choices became less likely. Knowledge survived because daily life became the classroom. This changes everything. Every ordinary walk through the forest quietly trained the next generation to survive a landscape filled with hidden risks. A line of families climbs over a rocky ridge carrying infants, stone tools, bundles of dried meat, and glowing embers protected inside bark containers. Behind them, familiar valleys disappear into the distance. Ahead lies a landscape of unfamiliar trees, strange birds, unknown rivers, and plants no one has ever tasted. Hunters spread out to scout the terrain while gatherers stop repeatedly to examine leaves that resemble familiar species but grow in different shapes and color. Every discovery demands caution. Researchers suggest human migrations repeatedly forced communities to rebuild their understanding of local food. Safe plants from one region often had dangerous lookalikes elsewhere, while familiar animal behavior could no longer be trusted. Entering a new ecosystem meant inherited experience suddenly covered only part of the problem. But here's the strange part. Migration offered new opportunities for survival, while simultaneously erasing the confidence generations had worked so hard to build. Cold wind sweeps across an abandoned campsite where scattered footprints fade beneath drifting dust. A small surviving group searches desperately for food after losing several older members during a harsh winter. Younger adults argue over unfamiliar roots, hesitate beside clusters of mushrooms, and finally leave many untouched because no one can remember which were once considered safe. Children watch silently as another day ends with almost empty baskets and another fire burning low. Researchers believe knowledge could disappear as quickly as it accumulated when experienced people died before passing it on. A severe climate event, disease, conflict, or repeated migration may have broken chains of memory that had protected communities for generations. Food did not become more poisonous overnight, but the ability to recognize danger may have weakened. But reality was far stranger. A society could lose its greatest survival tool without losing a single spear or stone blade. Dawn breaks over a wide river as several gatherers spread different foods across flat stones. One person roasts tubers over glowing coals, another washes seeds in flowing water, while a third carefully separates unfamiliar berries into small piles before anyone eats. Children carry fresh water between the fires, hunters sharpen spears nearby, and everyone waits together before the meal begins. Nothing about the routine appears dramatic, yet every repeated action reflects lessons earned through generations of careful observation. Researchers believe ancient people gradually built remarkably reliable systems by comparing outcomes, repeating successful methods, and abandoning dangerous ones. They did not understand toxins at the molecular level, but they recognized patterns that consistently increased the chances of survival. Their knowledge grew through countless ordinary decisions rather than a single breakthrough. But something changed. Every shared meal quietly became another experiment that strengthened the group's chances of surviving tomorrow. Family gathers around a modern dinner table as steam rises from freshly prepared food. Hands reach confidently for bread, vegetables, fruit, and cooked meat without hesitation. Cut to thousands of years earlier, where another family sits beside a fire beneath a cold night sky, carefully passing a single roasted root from one pair of hands to the next. Both families eat together, but only one must wonder whether the meal will bring strength or suffering before morning. Scientists suggest today's confidence around food rests upon an extraordinary accumulation of inherited knowledge. Farming, cooking, preservation, and scientific testing expanded that foundation, yet they all stand on discoveries first made by people who faced uncertainty with almost every meal. Scientists didn't expect this. The greatest inheritance from prehistoric humanity may not be a tool or a weapon, but the confidence to eat without fear. Imagine standing alone at the edge of an untouched forest as evening shadows stretch across the ground. Your stomach growls, cold air settles around your shoulders, and dozens of unfamiliar plants surround you. You kneel to inspect a cluster of berries, break open a thick root, smell a handful of leaves, then pause. Somewhere nearby, birds feed without concern while distant animal calls echo through the trees. Nothing carries a warning label. Every choice feels equally uncertain. Researchers believe prehistoric survival depended on far more than courage or physical strength. It required patience, observation, cooperation, memory, and the willingness to learn from generations that came before. Alone, even the most intelligent person would face overwhelming uncertainty in a landscape without inherited knowledge. So here's the question that remains. If every lesson your ancestors discovered disappeared overnight, how many days would it take before hunger forced you to make a choice you could never take back?